Hey, what's up, everyone? I hope you had a lovely Christmas. It's Eddie from Eddy's Emporium, and this week it's a bit of a different one. We're going to be doing like a year in review just because it's been a massive year at Eddy's Emporium, obviously the first ever year. And I thought, since there's not really much in the news for TCG because everyone's on holiday eating Christmas dinner, I know I've gained about 2 kilos from that. I thought it'd be really cool to kind of give you a bit of a timeline and generally my experience and kind of things I've gone through. And, you know, the cool things, the stressful things, and the in-between that you might not know of. So, yeah, I'm going to go into this. So in this video, I'm going to try and go chronologically. There might be a few things that like jump in and out of place just based on memory or kind of when I feel that they kind of took real effect. I'm certainly really excited, and when I was writing these like kind of prompts out for me on the experience, it was really fond feeling, but also like I kind of go like, wow, like where I am now and the feeling that I felt at that moment in time was intense. There's been a lot of intense feelings throughout this year, and I suppose that comes with being a business owner, but probably more so than I may have felt if I did things a bit differently. But that's really interesting, kind of, the beauty of hindsight, because I look back now and I kind of go like, oh wow, I wish I knew what I did then, but without going through that I wouldn't know it now. So yeah, so the Eddy's Emporium brand was birthed in around April this year. So I had been selling on eBay beforehand, so I had some e-commerce experience, but I kind of decided, look, I'm going to take a chance on making something for myself and not just be like an eBay seller or, a person that I want to take my brand away and build something up over the next, 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years in the TCG space, because I love this, and the idea of making this a full-time thing was really exciting. And I remember coming across the Pokey NE. He was a inspirational pivot point in that journey, because he explained the process of starting up a TCG business from home. You don't need a crazy amount of investment. You don't need connections in the business to be able to do what I'm doing today. And I use that as a kind of learning curve for building up key parts of the business, in which I say today he's been instrumental. So Pokey, if you're ever watching this, thank you. You've been a massive help, as I'm sure you've done that for many other people. Following releasing the brand, the idea being birthed, I quickly went to assess what kind of website I wanted to be built, whether that be the platform, the domain. Obviously you go using things like GoDaddy to make sure that my domain was bought, purchased, I owned that, and no one else can take that away from me. And I went for Shopify. You've got other options there, Wix, Squarespace, other things like that, but I thought the most future-proof one for me was Shopify. There's a lot you can do in terms of customizable options, make it your own. And I went to work on building the website, and it is very much a rabbit hole situation. I remember being up quite frequently on a 9-to-5 job till about 4, 5 a.m. at times, building the website out to make sure it felt and functioned how I wanted, whether that's setting filters, understanding the user experience journey, which I had previous experience working in IT and doing some user experience for website building. So I kind of understood what fundamentals is kind of needed for a lot of people coming to websites. But for me, it was really important that I got that right the first time before any kind of customer walked through my virtual door, that was going to be their first impression. We can only build on that. And so like filters aren't necessarily standard in a TCG sense. So, in stock, out of stock are all come as bog standard, but I want people to be able to filter by card, by set, by rarity, and be able to combine all them to quickly filter down what will potentially be a massive inventory, to then be able to really pinpoint their stuff within 2 to 3 clicks. Because I also think that as a user journey, from getting them from, entry point to checkout on the website from a business perspective, is equally important. You want to make sure that's as little clicks as possible. And that was such a huge thing for me because I remember looking, okay, what do I want my brand colors to be? I don't want to look like I'm copying anyone else. I like the idea of browns, creams, golds because it's treasure, hence Eddy's Emporium. When you come in, when you're a little kid and you go to like a little TCG store and you look up and it feels like the entire wall, floor to ceilings full of TCG goods, and that really excited me. So treasure was my tones. I wanted neutrals. I wanted calm, cool. I didn't want kind of too much in the way of neons because I know that is quite overdone in our area, and quite frankly, I don't particularly like it. I want it to kind of be a cool place for people to go. And yeah, things like typography, having a specific way of my words being viewed, visually speaking, and making sure that was consistent throughout everything in the website. It was actually quite, looking back, the amount I covered in such a short space of time, and that was bridged by using things like ChatGPT, and I'll probably do a couple of videos in how I operate with this, because I don't think without the use of AI, and I know a lot of people kind of moan and groan without that, but from a small business perspective, I can't put into words how invaluable that has been for me, because I'm able to set up an eBay assistant, I'm able to set up a Shopify assistant, Google assistant, a product listing assistant, all these kind of different projects and products that are able to be like speed run, that I probably never would have had the skill set or the ability or time to even think about that being a possibility without hiring someone with money I don't have, because this isn't funded from an external source. I don't have a partnership. I don't have any investment outside of what is my salary job and the money I choose to build that up. And if you're unaware of the journey so far, I'm equally doing this while saving up for a wedding and a house. So that's how feasible these kind of things can be. I don't want to start doing them kind of like get rich quick YouTube videos that kind of I speak as a guru, because I'm still really like early level. So I don't want to start spewing things onto the place that could potentially be a negative effect. So once I feel comfortable and confident with doing something, I will share that with you so that you kind of get it right the first time, or at least gives you an idea of what you might want to do with it. Because website was huge, because that's your entire brand identity when you're an e-commerce store. And kind of like one of the later ones, I'll kind of jump back into it because it's still a bit more on kind of context to a website, was learning the eBay and Shopify integrations and the TikTok integrations. There's other ones as well that you've got like Amazon and stuff, but I'm yet to utilize them. They were really useful in the way that there's preset tools that Shopify allows for me to be able to kind of almost hook them up like you plugging in a Hoover kind of thing. Allowed me to use my inventory source as my single source of truth. So if something's sold on my eBay, it calls to my Shopify, that goes down by 1. Obviously, if something is out of stock in any point from my inventory, it removes it from that marketplace. Making sure that me as a business owner and a single person allows me to not have to worry about that management. And that has a crazy amount of value for a person like myself who is quite forgetful, puts something down, doesn't know where to put it. It was huge for me. So what's a shop without anything on the shelves? It's bankrupt. So the next step for me, once I had my website, I did have products beforehand that I could add, but if you could imagine like suddenly filling up a entire website to make it look full, because I think the context of a website looking full and having options gives a good idea of it prospering. I couldn't have a distributor in the traditional sense. So Eddy, obviously his route was the Japanese market, securing a person overseas. They're not a distributor by trade. They are just an average Joe like me or you, buys stuff off the shelves and sells it on to the wider public. Japanese wholesalers can't sell overseas. So if someone's saying that to you, that they're licensed and they can do that, I would probably avoid that, because it'd be quite dangerous for them, because they're not legally allowed to do that. So you would then find that person. I search social media, look for the right person, the right contact details. There's many, many people that can do this. And I popped in my first order. And my first order came through. It was a pretty simple transaction because it was probably about £800 worth of product. I was testing the waters, and that came through absolutely fine. Now, this is where it kind of got a bit tricky for me. I ended up doing that order and going like, okay, that was really successful. I'm going to do like I think it's about £4,000 to £5,000 order, all in when I'm talking about the import tax and everything like that. And again, this is where you call naivety, early doors learning. I didn't realize because I was following an American YouTuber and his tutorials that an EORI number was required from a UK person importing of significant value for commercial use. And suddenly I didn't have that, and my stuff was stuck in the FedEx shipment area, and it was within, I remember the feeling. I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating properly, I was just restless all the time, because they said, within 2 weeks this could get returned to sender. And the time and investment that would cost, and I don't know what the situation would be with the Japanese person that sent me them over, because it's not an official business to business relationship. It's like a consumer to consumer relationship. So in theory, they could have just kept it and said either you pay me again to ship it out, or, they've got the money and that's it. And the feeling of that lostness that I had within me, because it was just like, this is where the business almost failed before it started, because I didn't have that EORI number. And I remember going to find my EORI number. It's a very simple process if you've not done that yet. But the issue that we had was a bug at HMRC, and I did raise this to them. If you want to get your EORI number, you have to put in the first postcode that you signed up to HMRC with. So for context, I was a student, so I lived in about 13, 14 different households between the first time I signed up for a HMRC tax account. Now, this could be changed, so please don't take it as gospel, but if you are experiencing a bug that is similar to you not being able to get an EORI number, try the first address in which you signed up for that account with. And I'm not going to take credit for that. One of my very talented friends who is in the industry was able to troubleshoot that for me, because I remember being on the verge of tears, not knowing really where to go with this. I was emailing HMRC. They didn't really know what was going on. And we managed to get to the bottom, and it was crazy, because it was so simple that when I put in that correct one, it immediately spewed out my EORI number. And I sent it to them straight away, and then within, I would say, 24 to 48 hours, it was turning up at my door. And that elation was something I can't put into words. But then that's where the kind of actual work started. Logging, cataloging, quality checking to make sure everything was right, nothing was damaged, just so when it goes onto the website, it is a true reflection of the quality and authenticity of the item. And yeah, all was well there. So following that one, we had probably a good 2 to 3 months of me being an exclusive Japanese TCG producer, or obviously there might be singles that I'm selling from my own personal collection. And that's where I suddenly was like, okay, well, I'm going to start taking a punt now. And I started applying to some distribution places. There's various distribution places that have certain access requirements. And one of them that I went to was one of the most valued in all of the UK, that supplies almost every TCG. And of course, this was during the hype of Pokemon. So any place for any new person, you're not getting Pokemon. So I leveraged my contact. I pretty much called them direct. And while I was on the phone with the person, because I was, really proud, I built this great website. It was very interactive. I then said to him, I was like, look, go on my website, have a look right now, www.eddysemporium.co.uk. And he had a look, and he really liked what he saw. And he said, yeah, absolutely. You more than qualify for what we look for in a partner. And that was a really great feeling for me, because that was the first time I had validation in the space, that obviously wasn't just from, my friends, my family supporting me, who have all been fantastic, but some salesperson on the phone saying like, yeah, you look like a person we can work with, which was crazy because it was about 4 to 5 months in of Eddy's Emporium existing, having secured a UK distributor in what was a crazy hype period for trading cards and everything in between. And then I remember doing the application because you have to fill out an application form. And then I remember the email coming back, and I remember the person rejecting me on that. And I remember being like, okay, well, something must be wrong here. So I remember calling up the person beforehand. He answered the phone to me and passed me on to the individual that rejected me. And I remember going, oh, hey, like, the reason that you have said I don't apply, I think I'm more than apply for. And immediately when they looked at the website, and I think it was just they thought I was a social media seller, and they were like, oh, sorry, got it mistaken, and accepted it. So that was a bit of a woo kind of experience, but yeah, it was great. So from that point on, I started ordering. I think the way that I was going about it was I was ordering the kind of lower cost stuff, the stuff kind of people weren't looking at. So it's kind of niche flesh and blood sets, because I was trying to find bargains in the market. And I think I quite quickly realized that while I got into this through kind of charity shopping, thrifting for secondhand goods, that doesn't work in a TCG space in the similar sense that people kind of want the product that's hot right now. And to this day, I'm quite happy. I'll happily say, look, there's room for that. Like if you're kind of buying pallets of stuff that are, discontinued, but sometimes when you're buying from a distribution center, you're not always going to get the best rates versus actually buying stuff from another person fire selling. So that was, one thing that I learned from being with my distribution company. Buy the stuff that people want first. You might not always get the allocation, but you will sell. And whether that be you as an established brand or not, if you build up that trust, that will come next. And that's a good segue into where I immediately knew I needed to prove is how trustworthy is Eddy's Emporium. And that's where I started setting up my social medias, my YouTube. I started doing vlogs like this. Obviously, we are now just past the 6-month mark. I do a weekly vlog now. Firstly, that hopefully proves my validity as an individual selling on the marketplace, my passion for the TCG space, but also when people look at that, they'll go, okay, well, this is a person willing to put their face out there. And, usually people that aren't as trustworthy or have ulterior motives aren't willing to put their face out there for accountability purposes. And I paired that with making sure second and third party websites like Trustpilot, that was something I push with every single order. You'll always get a QR code to say, please review me on Trustpilot. Even today, I've got 2 5-star reviews, which my goal is, and I think that makes you money in the same way that when people look, oh, there's a good price on here, but I don't know this person. There's not a high street store that you can kind of walk by, nip in a few times, like test out the waters. That's what they're going to look for. Has other people had a good experience from my website? Yes. And how valid is that? And in the UK, Trustpilot is probably the go-to place for e-commerce and other places. You kind of go like, okay, well, if I'm taking a chance here, like it's good to know that there is that. And it's hard to build up that. I've just hit, I think, my 705th sale this year since opening my Shopify store. And I've maybe just hit about 30 Trustpilot reviews. They're all 5-star, but it's one of them things, every single one had a sticker on. So if you don't get them straight away, then them reviews, them 5 stars and the feedbacks, don't be disheartened, because if you throw enough spaghetti at the wall and you deliver a good service, people will recognize that. And I think it is very much a snowballing effect when that happens, because how you deliver that service with consistency, conciseness, and I'm terrible for conciseness if you've obviously heard me waffle on some of my videos, but just make sure it's consistent and a good experience for people. Like if you can do a quid off, or you can make their day by adding an extra kind of gift in there, like they are the difference in what will convert a customer on a different website to your website, even if you might have different pricing. It's all about the experience, them knowing you as a person. There, I can't remember the name, but I'll pop it up there if I can remember. But it's like building a relationship with your viewers, similar to how you're maybe watching me right now. Like you might have been watching me for a few months now. Obviously, if you have, thank you. But me and you will have that kind of almost conversation on a weekly basis now about TCG, the space, how Eddy's Emporium going. You are almost as invested in the business as I am, just from a journey perspective. And that's really important, from trust and experience and kind of building that brand, more importantly, because I'm Eddy from Eddy's Emporium and you can live this with me. And I suppose I was just doing a little side note. Doing my first ever vlog for Eddy's Emporium, the Beyond the Booster vlog. Man, I was so nervous doing that, and you will probably be too. I'm not I'm an outgoing guy. I'm not like always one to be the center of attention. Like I'm stood here right now with two like little lights on me and a camera, and I remember the first time doing it. I remember feeling having to put on a persona and everything in between. Like I'm no way the finished product. But I remember starting and I was stumbling over my words. I was really kind of like, oh, will people like this? And the likelihood is like, I mean, you see my videos now, I get maybe 20, 40 views a video. I'm not doing it to become an influencer, but like, just keep it up, because if you enjoy it, like who cares, whether that, I think that will come with time. But remember, it's also for like things like a brand. Like this is a free advert in my eyes. And a lot of people kind of don't see that immediate gratification and kind of dip off. There's been times where I've been looking at it being like, oh man, like I can't be bothered to do the weekly vlog, but it's fun. I enjoy it. I get to share this journey with everyone. And I think maybe in like 10, 20 years time, when I'm looking back on these moments where you have inconsistency, drops, no views, that's kind of like what will make it feel worthwhile. It won't be that end product, as losery as it sounds. It is genuinely the journey, and I'm having a great time, as much as I'm so stressed. But it's great. I couldn't imagine doing it in any other way. So we had some of the first ever kind of big releases at the store. So Magic the Gathering, Avatar, Spider-Man. There's Yu-Gi-Oh sets, there's been Y Schwartz releases, and obviously, as you come into a distributor, a lot of the stuff when you kind of check in has already been fulfilled for a couple of months. So I was almost backdating my pre-orders. So I almost had to wait like 2.5 months for my first ever big release for Avatar and other things like that. And now I've got the consistency of being able to roll out pre-orders and requests as I'm making them in real time. Now allocations, I'm not obviously, my fate, I could be as nice to them as possible. I'm never going to be the favorite because I'm not spending, hundreds of thousands of pounds with them. And I think, again, the reality of that situation is it's a business to business relationship. They're going to prioritize people giving money. I don't always get everything I ask for. Sometimes I get nothing. And that's the nature of TCG. And a lot of people come in to that space and they have unrealistic expectations of what they should get just because they've got a relationship and or money. And yeah, it's very different when you do hit that without obviously significant connections or being like a Nepo baby. So just bear that in mind. Started learning about taxes and all the kind of background business stuff to optimize my business, make sure I'm obviously not overpaying tax, paying the right amount, but where possible, making sure the money stays within the business. And, I've said it multiple times over various weeks that my goal is to make sure that the money that I make profit-wise is being spent on upgrading the business, obviously where legally possible and responsibly, sorry. I want to make sure that goes to assets rather than it be lost money, because my salary job subsidizes my living, my savings, so I can really help nurture Eddy's Emporium grow by investing that money and that profit back into the business, which, can be things like, extra inventory, equipment, shelving, a PC for editing because this PC is screaming right now, and, all them other great assets that will help the business thrive later down the line, it will. Fun little functions as well. There was trading in. I remember trying to build in the first trading in form, trying to understand the best way to operate it. It's still definitely not the finished product. At one point in the way future, I'd like to have like almost like a buy-in sheet, and you can just click the boxes and it auto updates, all that kind of stuff. But testing that out with my friends, that was a great experience, because it was kind of felt like, oh wow, this is kind of getting to the operational side where I'm not kind of doing ad hoc website changes all the time. I'm just doing these small bits now, and the buy-in sheet was a great optimization. The bespoke source and service, something where I was like, well, I can't have every product, don't have the money behind me to have every product my distributor sells on the website. Let me do a service where I can maybe buy it for you through my distributor. So it's obviously all like licensed distribution, and then you get probably the best price match thing for me. I get a customer, you get a great experience, and I think that would roll into obviously returning customers. There was that as well. And so, yeah, as you've got the website, as I mentioned, it's starting to look very polished, and that's where I kind of go, well, you can never have too much polish. And that was like things like updating the way I take photos, the way I edit them, the branding, like grading photos. That's one of my most recent ones, where I've took one of my existing more washed out photos and turned it into a really well polished lit photo. And that's through a good post editing template that I set up. I'm going to create a video for that, because I do feel like we've got a good format for that video, because it's very much like a how-to guide rather than me being an expert and tell you. I use the assistance from like a photo editing AI chat as well to give me context, to make sure that the picture is as presentable as possible, without any augmentations. It just shows it in the best light possible, and that allows me to make the brand more identifiable, the listing to look more appealing to people, and all the other in between stuff that I just do with like a phone, a photo box, and a free software, because I use Photopea because I'm broke and Photoshop basically does the same thing. And it's just a drag and drop thing now, and it just makes my photos look 10 times better, really shows the colors, how it feels when they're in hand. But I'm not going to get too far into it, because that's actually going to be a different video. And I suppose that's where we are today. It's flown by. I got carried away there with the time I was talking. It's been a really good year, and I hope it's been a really good year for you. It's been very intense, loads of highs, loads of lows with Eddy's Emporium, but I think that does come with business. It's definitely more highs. The business has never been so strong. So many sales, so many reviews coming in, so many happy customers. We've got non-stop 5-star reviews on Trustpilot now. I'm genuinely so excited for what 2026 is going to bring, not just for me, but my personal life. I've got a fantastic partner that supports me all the time. She's just doing so well in her job. And, I've got a fantastic group of friends and family. So I really do hope you have a fantastic start to your 2026, and I will catch you on the next video. Ciao.